everyone. My name is Matt Carmona. I am on the marketing team here at Meta. Been at Meta for about 8 years now. Started on the partnerships team, but for the past few years have been working very closely with the Horizon organization. A lot of familiar faces in the room. I spent 2 years on our avatars team, and most recently, this time last year, launched our new avatars, which now are able to wear these amazing clothes, do all the amazing things that Christina talked about. Also, thank you to the creator who helped me get my nice outfit. I'm feeling festive today. And so, as Jen mentioned, we have a lot of seasonal opportunities coming up, and I was actually chatting with the team about this. And I was like, let me go later in the day because I feel like there are a lot of things that I want to tie together because it's topical, it's timely, and I want to make sure everyone has that context before we dive in. So I kind of view this session as an opportunity to pull those things together and help this group really think about their plans for the next few months as we round out the year. So a couple of goals for today. First, I'm going to share some actionable insights with all of you. Second, I really want to talk through some of the best practices for thinking about and planning for Halloween, for holiday. You're going to hear me say holiday a few times today. That's going to be either Halloween or December holiday, so it'll be both. And then I'll also talk through how we at Meta are also trying to support all of you because we really do view Halloween and holiday as opportunities to drive shared success. Like we want our customers to be excited about this. We want you all to be successful, and I think working hand in glove, we can do that. So here's how we are going to do that. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to first start with the insights, like what do we see happening at this time of year? Then we'll get into the so what of it all, the implications. So how can you take advantage of these trends in your planning and how you're thinking about activating, whether it's with quests, with wearables, with new content. Then we'll get down to brass tacks. We'll talk about those best practices at each stage of the funnel. I know we heard bits and pieces today from different folks about the marketing side, the content side, the retention side. We'll bring all of that together and really talk through step by step how we can be prepared for these moments. And then I'll talk about what we at Meta are doing to activate around this too. I know we talked a little bit earlier today about live services. One thing I would just want to put out there for this group is that really we at Meta are starting to think about live services as a platform too. So all the things I'll talk about today are things that we are also internalizing and trying to adopt on our side of the house as well. So I know live services is a big topic. We're also trying to build that muscle, and so this is our first step, and we're excited to be doing this with all of you. Then we'll have time for Q&A. So let's get into it. So before we dive into the details, we're going to start with the high-level trends. And if there's one thing that I want everyone in this room to take away, it's this: seasonal timing matters. I'll say it again, seasonal timing matters. It's so important that I actually put it up on its own little slide right here. So what does this actually mean? It means that there are windows of time when it's relatively more important for you and your worlds and your experiences to put your best foot forward. These are the windows when we see people really excited about getting into headset, opening up worlds on their phones, and this is when we have the wind at our back and when there's relatively greater upside for meeting that moment. And creators who plan for these moments are going to be the ones who capture that upside. And creators who kind of let the moment pass by because they don't think it matters that much, well, that wave's going to pass them, and then they're playing catch up after that growth benefits the others' worlds or experiences. So that's why timing is important. And so I know we've said this word seasonal a few times. Like, what do we actually mean by seasonal? So what we mean is that engagement follows cyclical, predictable rhythms every year. There are clear peaks and clear valleys or troughs throughout the year. And so before I actually say anything else, I'm going to stop and just tell us what we're looking at here. This is a time series graph. It shows time spent in VR experiences free to play. So this is a graph that is very correlated with the type of worlds that we're building in this room. And so as you can see, there are really big peaks that show up at the end of the year, around December, January, the holiday season, another big peak in summer. But as you can see, like, this is what we're really focusing on. Every year, the pattern is very similar, and what we really want to do is be ready for those peaks. Like, how do we ensure that we're getting all the benefits of those peaks and that we're ready in time? Because these are the moments when people are either opening new headsets, opening new phones, jumping in, are really open to new experiences and new things to chat about with their friends. So let's talk about what's driving these trends, because this is time spent, but a lot of things go into this. So two things. First, let's start with entitlements. So entitlements is when a person has the ability to install or play an app. So on the free side, really we see entitlements as being really spiking in the holiday period. they're really, really correlated with the hardware purchase cycle. So when we launch a new headset, we find that a lot of people are going into headsets and exploring new things to play. The reason is that people get the new device, they're excited, they want to jump in, and people typically start with free things first and then move to paid. And so what you see here is that spike really is correlated with that week or two after Christmas. We see entitlements increase by 1.5 times, and that spike is actually greater for free experiences. And so the way that I like to think about this is that entitlements really are a proxy for how open are people to new experiences in their headset or on their phones. And so if we take that lens, then we see that we're actually getting ready to enter a really big period when people are excited, they're open to new experiences, and they're going to be ready to look. And I think with mobile too, that makes it even easier because people now have another way to access Horizon. So that's entitlements, and that's what it's driven by, again, really driven by that hardware purchase cycle. Let's go back to time spent. Time spent is really downstream from two things. First, like we said, headset purchases. When people get a new headset, they're excited, they put it on, they want to spend time playing new games, playing new experiences. But it's also downstream from leisure time. If you notice here, we actually see a big spike in summer on time spent, and we don't see that on entitlement. So that tells us that people are really spending more time in these experiences when they have more free time. And so, again, in holiday, we see those two things coming together. We see new purchases of headsets, new devices, and more free time. And that's why Q4 tends to be the largest spike of the year. And so that's really what we want to get prepared for. We want to get prepared for this moment when we're going to have a lot of people opening new devices or open to new experiences and have a lot of free time. So just to summarize this for the group, that holiday period is the most important period of the year, and that's what we want this group to be ready for as we approach the holiday season. Let's see. And then just a couple quick call-outs. You can see on the entitlement side, two big spikes, Black Friday and Christmas. Like I said, really tied to purchase behaviors for devices. And then for time spent, we see a little bit of a peak starting at Halloween, and then a jump up near Black Friday, again, driven by device purchases and free time, and then the big spike around holiday. And so this year, we'll get into it a bit later, we really want to start pushing on Halloween. Halloween, we think, is a really exciting time for us here in Horizon because the platform is all about social, it's about expression, and about immersive experiences. And so our goal this year, as we start to pull things together, is to see if we can really drive up time spent for Halloween to begin to mirror that for things like holiday. So we talked about this. We talked about what's driving that time spent, what's driving discovery and people's openness to new experiences. What does that actually mean for people in this room? So again, seasonal timing matters. These are predictable trends. They happen every year, and that's actually your opportunity. And if we can plan around these moments and these trends, then we can benefit from them and drive all the outcomes that we want: discovery, new audience growth, time spent, engagement, retention. Now, I can imagine if I were in the audience, I'd be sitting here thinking, like, that makes a lot of sense, of course, like, duh. Christmas, like, more time spent, yes. I would say that's only half of the equation. Like, this is what's happening with consumers, but there's also another side of the equation, and that is the supply side, the content side, the world that you all have. And so the question really is, where is that demand going? And so what we want to do by partnering with you all and also as a platform is to begin to drive people to the experiences that are going to meet the moment. That for Halloween, that are going to deliver these spooky, exciting experiences that get people into headset, on their phone, and sharing. And so that's really what I want to hit on today is we want our content and all of your world to be able to meet these moments and align with us as we begin to organize around these big beats. A couple other things just to call out here. These are seasonal trends that we see. We've not yet activated at scale around a moment like Halloween, and so we know it's a really relevant moment. And so even though these trends may not show Halloween being a really big opportunity, our hypothesis and what we're really going to push for this year is to show that actually if we align content and our platform and our marketing efforts, that we can begin to drive these outcomes and then use it as a model going forward. I know Christina mentioned a couple of themes, like our goal is to begin to build that muscle where at big beats and on a monthly basis, we're actually aligning with all of you and helping to drive these ongoing moments where people are excited, we're bringing relevant content to them, and delivering really unique experiences. So let's talk about what these seasonal moments may mean for how you think about activating. So what does this mean for all of you? So first off, we need to be really thoughtful about how we approach each of these windows. Our strategies need to align with like what audiences care about in those moments and what they don't. So for Halloween, for example, like we're not going to go throw a seasonal like winter moment or winter experience. Like it needs to be Halloween themed. but also like we need to make sure that we're being really mindful of what audiences are coming into the platform and which are there already. So another big idea to leave us with is different seasons require different strategies. Yes, those lines look the same, but the things that are driving them, as we mentioned, are a little bit different. Holiday, you have the combination of new devices and free time. For summer, it's mostly leisure-driven. And so we really want to think about how do we tease apart these ideas so that your strategy for each of the moments is aligning with what audiences most expect and need. And so I mentioned earlier that we're aligning as a platform around two really big beats this year, Halloween and holiday. I mentioned earlier Halloween's really important given all the self-expression opportunities that we have, all the immersive experiences we have, and then holiday is our biggest moment of the year, and so that'll be one that we really are investing in as a platform. But let's actually talk about both. So we said different strategies are required for different seasons. Halloween. If we think about Halloween, Halloween's really fun, but it's fleeting. I don't know about you, but when I think about my approach to Halloween, I don't think about it all year, and then there's like a week or two, and I'm like, oh crap, Halloween's coming up. I need to go get a costume. I need to go find a party. I need to make it happen. And that's great, but then like on November 1st, it kind of becomes irrelevant again. And so Halloween's all about driving really immediate urgency, building anticipation, and getting people into your experiences in those 2 to 3 weeks right before the season when they most are engaged and excited about that dress-up opportunity or that activation opportunity. In contrast, holiday, this is really the marquee event of the year. This is all about driving sustained relationships with your audiences. As I mentioned, a lot of new people are coming onto the platform, they're getting devices, and so really the approach here is about how do we get people in and drive depth of engagement, because this is going to be the biggest tailwind we have of the year. And so it's the opportunity to hook people, to engage them, and to retain them over and over again. And a lot of the things we talked about earlier with things like core loop or retention strategies play a much bigger role for holiday than they will for Halloween. Halloween's all about the quick burn. Holiday's all about that long-term engagement. And so let's talk about what that might look like for each. I mentioned Halloween, sprint mode creativity. We talked a bit about how Halloween is a bit of a flash in the pan. It's a moment that people get really excited about, and then the excitement really tapers off very quickly. But if we're thinking about driving around this holiday, we want to do a couple things. First, we want to time box our activation window. We want those 2 to 3 weeks around Halloween to be really engaging and exciting, and we want to put all of our muscle behind that. And then also means we need to do things like create urgency, highlight exclusivity, and be recognizable. Like make sure that as we activate around this moment, all the things that we talked about earlier, things like trailers, world descriptions, key art, are activating and reflecting this holiday opportunity. And if we think about what the audiences might be expecting, your existing audiences are likely coming back to you and will be really excited about Halloween. They're looking for something novel, for something engaging, something fresh and relevant, because chances are if you're not activating around Halloween, there's probably someone else out there who's going to do that. And the question is, like, is your world going to feel as relevant to your audience if they have another experience they can go jump into that's going to meet that need and that relevance in that moment? For newer audiences, this is also another opportunity to reintroduce your world. So again, if someone has seen your world before, maybe didn't align with their interests, this is another way to kind of reintroduce it. Is there something that you can do that's really compelling or interesting around Halloween? Is there a reward? Is there a quest? Is there something that can have them take a second look? And so I would view Halloween really as an opportunity to be really creative, kind of show a really exciting way to get someone in, and also it's a reintroduction opportunity so that you can get your world discovered, get people in, and get a second chance to either drive that engagement or deeper retention. Holiday, all about acquisition and sustained engagement, as I mentioned. Remember, holiday really is the marquee opportunity. This is the December moment. And so really, this is when we need to put our best foot forward. If you're only optimizing for one of these moments, let holiday be it. That is where most of the value is, new audiences are, and the opportunity really is to activate and drive those long-term relationships. If you're asking yourself, well, we talked about this a bit, is it only about new audiences? It's really not. It's about new audiences, it's about new audiences to your world, and then new audiences who might have churned before but have an opportunity to be re-engaged. So let's talk about both of these. So first, new audiences. This is really just like brass tacks, acquisition 101. How do we make your world stand out? How do we have the key art draw attention? How do we get people into your world? And then how do we begin to use all those best practices that we heard about earlier today, things like quests, core loop, rewards, to really drive that engagement further and further? And so these things take a lot of time. I know we heard earlier that resources are limited, but this is also why we're having this conversation today, because we know that it takes time to build retentive experiences for your audiences. And then for existing audiences, this is the same thing where they also want something fresh for the holidays. They have a lot of things coming out. There are a lot of new games launching in the holiday window. It's one of the most competitive windows for new experiences. And so another question to ask is, if you're not going to update or refresh around this period, how are you going to get timeshare? How are you going to get their attention? How are you going to keep them coming back to your world when they have a number of other options they could go to? So for holiday, again, big moment, big tailwind. And it's really the best opportunity to introduce your world to new audiences, but also a really competitive time for your existing audiences. And so no matter where you are, I would be thinking about how do you put your best foot forward during this period of time, because competition will go up as more games launch and more experiences compete for time and mind share. Okay, that was a lot. The good news is that these strategies can complement one another. Halloween sounds like a big sprint, holiday sounds like a marathon, but really, a lot of the learnings for Halloween, if you are going to activate around that, can be applied to holiday. If Halloween's all about grabbing attention, driving relevance, like those are the same things that we need to do for holiday too. And so one way that we're thinking about it is really this is kind of a way to test our holiday strategy. We're going to activate around Halloween, and then all those learnings can be applied to how we then optimize for holiday. So if you're thinking about, okay, well, I want to test if I update my key art or world display page or add something new for the holiday season, like those learnings can be applied to your December plans as well. And so if we're thinking about where to place a bet, definitely holiday should be the priority, but Halloween's a really great opportunity to do a trial run of that. And so I would think about how can you take the opportunity around Halloween, which is very discreet, could be lightweight, and begin to test and learn around what are the best practices for your world or ways that you can introduce your world to new audiences or drive deeper engagement with existing audiences. It's really kind of like an opportunity to drive a very light live ops. And so another way to think about this is that really Halloween is a way to kind of prime the pumps and to really get your upper funnel ready to go, and then holiday is really the opportunity to drive conversion and retention. So that is, here we go. Halloween, experiment, holiday, go deep. And so we know that this group has limited resources. Not everyone can do everything. So I would really think about, knowing that Halloween is going to be a big event for us and then holiday as well, how can you begin to think about an action plan that allows you to use both holidays to drive the outcomes that you want? Are you struggling with driving upper funnel awareness? Are you struggling to get people into the world? Are you struggling with retention? Let's think about how Halloween and then holiday can help you diagnose each stage of the funnel and then optimize so that you're ready to go for your end. Okay, so that is the why we're activating, the opportunity, the beats that we care about. Let's talk about best practices. This is just a side-by-side. I'll share this with you all so you have it, but it's kind of a TLDR for what we just covered. Okay, first things first. Two big focus areas here. First is timing and then tactics. Let's start with timing. I mentioned earlier that Halloween is a very quick turnaround. And so really the goal here, if you're going to activate around it, is to be ready about 2 to 3 weeks before Halloween. That way you are capturing the zeitgeist, you're capturing that moment when the content is most relevant to your users, and you're getting them in at a time when they most are interested in that type of content. That being said, I would also really think about the timeline of the off-ramp. So I'm sure many of you have seen like the Spirit Halloween stores popping up all over the neighborhood. Like no one's going there on November 1st. Like it's it. You get the costume, it's done, and then that's Halloween. And so if you are activating on Halloween, again, those 2 to 3 weeks are really, really important, but I'd also think about your off-ramp. Like how do we quickly turn the content around so that it's not stale and people aren't looking at your world and seeing pumpkins and it's now mid-November. And so big opportunity, but what are the lightweight ways that you can activate and then quickly turn that off so that the content still feels fresh and relevant? And then for holiday, really be ready by late November. You saw the Black Friday bump. That's when we start seeing people begin to purchase devices or get interested in looking for new experiences, new things for the holiday. So if you're ready by Black Friday, you can begin to tap into that growing time spent, that discovery. And then that way you're also ready by mid-December when people are most interested in the holiday opportunities, and also ready by late December when people finally have their new devices and are most interested in finding that next big thing. One strategy we see pretty frequently is people begin to roll out new updates around Black Friday and then do a holiday refresh in mid-December to make sure they optimize for that window. And so if that's a strategy that you are interested in, let's chat, because that's also one that we're focused on and want to ensure that what you're doing for this holiday moment is working. And by launching a bit early, you have time to test and get some early results and use all the insights that we now offer in the dashboards to get that signal. That being said, timing is important, but let's talk about what it actually means to adopt these best practices. We recommend taking what we call a full funnel approach. So I mentioned earlier, we have bits and pieces where people are talking about different tactics. There's the trailer tactic, there's the quest and core loop tactic, there's the way to drive retention tactic, but really what we want to do is structure this in a way so that we can almost have a checklist of how do we optimize for each of these beats. And so what I would recommend is don't focus on any one thing, but focus on the full user journey. How do we ensure that the user journey from end to end is driving the outcomes that you want? So are you driving awareness? Are you driving someone to click? Are you driving someone to stay engaged and come back again? And that's really what we're going to go through today. So awareness. To upper funnel, what you'll see here just quickly is this is kind of how we think about the user journey. So like there's initial awareness, people see your stuff and then maybe click and then they get into your world. But you also see here that we actually call it the specific criteria that we talk about when we talk about discovery. So I think you all have seen the discovery documentation. This is our way of also showing how to apply that discovery learnings and that guidance to how you think about optimizing your world. So first things first, we want to position our worlds for discovery, and we do that by driving appeal. So that means by getting people who see your content to click and engage with your world. And so a couple of ways that we want to do that is first, by having really, really good key art. And we talked a bit earlier about the tools that we now offer to do that. Highly, highly recommend using the A/B testing tool. I think any of us who have made a piece of art, we think it's always amazing, and then sometimes reception's not that great. Use the data, use the tools, find what works. Oftentimes, data is going to be a better signal on what's quality and what's compelling to people. And I tend to be biased about things that I create, and it's not always the best signal. So really try to do the A/B test, see what works, iterate a lot, and Halloween's a great opportunity to do that. Multiple formats. We talk about this a lot, but we really want to ensure that your key art is optimized from every single placement that we have. And I know this has come up a bit over the last couple of months, but we're growing the number of placements that we surface and feature content. And so the recommendation we have is for at least 9x16, 16x9, and 1x1s for static, and then 9x16 and 16x9 for videos. And that ensures that your videos are able to show up in the best possible light no matter where they're distributed. I think it was Kingsley or someone who mentioned that we're also beginning to roll out some new UIs on the VR side. So you might also hear from us on additional specs. And we know that that doesn't come free. We know that it takes time and energy to actually update those assets for different specs. The good news is that if we're pushing new specs, that means we're also trying to find new ways to get people into worlds, but recognize that we will probably come back to you a couple of times with updated asset specs if you want to get featured in different placements and have those placements look good and be as compelling as possible to the audiences that see them. Third is metadata. I like to just say make metadata work for you. A lot of times I will go to a world and I'll see it, it looks compelling, but then I read the description and I don't know what it actually is. And so I would say, like, as we're thinking about going into the holiday season, if you are going to make updates around seasonal opportunities or events, like put that in the world description, call it out, point to what you want people to do or to be excited about. Same thing with things like titles. If you are having a Halloween update, find a way to sneak that in so that people know, like, oh, this is relevant for me right now. Other things to do, just make sure that your metadata maps to exactly what your world is. We don't want people to expect, an obby game or an obstacle game or a platformer game and then get into an RPG. So do a double check and scan, because people's expectations are important and we want to meet them where they are. If someone's expecting one thing, they jump in, it's not what they want, they're going to jump right back out. That's bad signal for you and can hurt your discovery. Next, social amplification. We talked a bit about this earlier, and I know Christina had some really good call-outs on new features that we're doing to drive discovery on the family of apps, but I would take a, full surface area approach. Family of apps, Discord, TikTok, YouTube. The great news is that it's very easy to create vertical video assets and push them across multiple platforms. And so I'd really encourage this group to think about how are you driving ongoing awareness about your world. I think launch is one thing, but launch is not the only thing. And we have a number of new tools, even on the Instagram side, where you can do things like trial reels, like make a trailer, do a trial reel, push it out there, see how it performs. And then if you're like, you know what, let me test it again, do another one. There are a lot of ways that we can begin to optimize the marketing or promotional assets that we put out there. And so I would say, if you're doing anything around holidays or Halloween, think about how you're going to tell your audience about that. How are you going to build that anticipation and excitement? Because oftentimes people don't know if they don't hear about it. And you are the best champion and advocate for your world. You're the chief marketer, you're the chief builder. And so really important to think about what is the social plan and how do we ensure that that amplification aligns with the timelines for your updates. And then one that's, I think, important for all of us here, cross-promotion. Are there opportunities to partner with other creators in this room? Do we have a door strategy? Do we have a collaboration strategy? What are ways that you can make the community work for you? Because oftentimes 1 + 1 is 3, and if there is going to be like a, I don't know, a haunted house or haunted world, I don't know, door strategy where like you have multiple worlds linked together, that requires planning. That can also drive more discovery. So thinking about how you may also want to do cross promotions with your favorite collaborators is something we want to think about now because that can drive discovery and help introduce your world to audiences that otherwise may not find it. Okay, we talked about this a bit. I'm just going to call it out again because it's important. I want to make sure we get ahead of it. We are rolling out some new VR UIs in Horizon, and so just flagging that you may see worlds and key art show up in different places. This is one where, again, if we ask for new specs or you hear us talking about new spec requests, it's because we want to ensure that your worlds show up in the best way. More to come on this, and we'll be happy to take questions about some of these UI changes coming up, but no visuals to share just yet. Okay, back to our funnel. So we talked a lot about driving awareness and discovery, that upper funnel awareness. For things like Halloween and holiday, their chances are that a lot of people have seen your world and seen your key art and considered jumping in before, but this is a great opportunity to reintroduce your world to them. And so for things like Halloween that require a lot of urgency, I would really think about how do we get someone to take that action and click now? And so a couple things that we want to think about are things like adaptive creative. So if you have key art and you've had brand key art for a long time, like is there a way to introduce some sort of visual element to drive awareness that like, something changed? Is it a pumpkin? Is it a ghost? Is it a haunted house? Is it a change in the tone or the color grading? Second, limited time offers, like how do we create urgency to the moment? Is there a quest that's only available for 2 to 3 weeks? Or for holiday, do you get something special if you jump into the world within the holiday period? Is there something for new first-time visitors? And then events. We talked about this earlier. There's more and more linkages between Horizon and Facebook events, but how can you create an event to drive immediate urgency and to drive social proof? So when someone sees like, oh, X many people are interested in this event, like how do you get people excited, committed, and in your world at the same time? Again, social platform, really exciting. We can drive a lot of people to the same experience at the same time. And so is it a holiday party? Is it a Halloween trick-or-treat event? Is it a activation? Think about how events can benefit your community and also how you can use them to drive concurrency and a really magical experience around these key beats. And then we're getting to the lower funnel piece. So big things to think about when we get to these last 3 metrics, visit quality, repeat visits, and tech performance. First is the simple nugs. So again, this is really important, especially for holiday when we're bringing a lot of new people into the ecosystem. It should be really easy for people to know what to do in your world. And I think this is especially true now and a little bit trickier because not only do we have a lot of people from VR jumping into worlds, we also have mobile. And as we introduce more and more entry points on surfaces like Facebook or Instagram or Messenger, chances are like your world could be the first Horizon experience that someone ever has. Like yours might be the very first world. So when someone jumps in, they may not have context on what Horizon is. How are they orienting themselves in your world and like how do they know what to do immediately? A thing I often think about is that people don't read captions and people don't like to read things. And so if someone's having to jump into your world and read something, probably going to be a harder onboarding experience and more likely to bounce. So are there signpostings or ways that we can drive quick understanding of what to do, assuming that someone either has no context about Horizon or no context about your world? Second is time to fun. This is, I mean, we talked a bit about this. I think Christina used the D word, dopamine. Like, how do we get someone to really see value quickly? I think this is something that's really important to getting people to come back again and to stick around. We talk a lot about sustained visit rate. Like, how do we get someone to really see value immediately so they stay for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? And so not only do we want to help people on board with the simple nugs, but what is the first thing that makes someone smile or get really excited about your world? Do they unlock something? Is there a character they interact with? Is there an experience that is new and novel to them? Think about, like, if you were a new person jumping into your world, what is that first moment? And if we don't have that, or if it's hard to identify, how do we create that around some of these opportunities where you might expect a lot more new users or new traffic to jump into your world? And then for retaining and user-led sharing. So first thing, leverage insights. We do offer insights on retention, and I would really think about how can we do some actionable tests that help us see if we make changes, is that helping to support retention? So again, we mentioned Halloween, holiday, 2 really big events for us. Is there a test you can do around Halloween to see if, oh, if I add this quest or if I drive this urgency, am I actually retaining people for longer? We have those cohorts, we have the new user retention numbers. Run a test and let's see what we can learn and use that information to inform how we think about holiday. And then we talk a bit about quests and leaderboards. Again, ways to keep people engaged and drive deeper retention. Again, for the holiday, really big important moment to drive new audiences, to get new audiences and to keep them engaged. Quests, if we're going to have a strategy, really should be ready to go by that holiday season because depth of engagement is what we're solving for. Leaderboards, another great way to drive sharing, to get people excited, to also get people coming back and back again to drive higher scores or to share their scores. I mentioned here use PVARs. I know we've started to talk a bit about PVARs, the persistent variables. PVARs are important, yes, for quests, and yes, because they help you unlock things, but PVARs are also important for the larger quest system at Meta. And so I know we've talked a bit about new services where worlds are popping up, things like unlockable stickers or a new avatar reward system. Like, those all run on PVARs. And one of the first questions that we often have or get from our game designers who begin to plug in worlds to those surfaces is, does the world have a PVAR? So this is my CTA. If you don't have PVARs, please add PVARs. 1, they're good for your world, they're good for retention. And 2, if we want to even be considered for other opportunities on FOA, like, we need these. So very important to add those into your world. And then periodic updates, we talked about this. I mean, this is a larger conversation about aligning your updates around bigger moments, but people want freshness. I played a lot of, or I've jumped into a lot of worlds where I jump in 1 week, I jump in a month later, I jump in 6 months later, and it's all the same thing. Like, what's the reason for me to come back? Is there something else that I can be doing? Is there something that's going to delight me? Oftentimes, you might have people who are really engaged and love your world, but they just want something a little bit more or different. And so novelty is also a reason why people are going to come back or churn if they don't find it. And then this is a bit of a different one, camera-ready designs. Think about how someone who has a phone or has VR, if they're going to record something fun or exciting. Like, is there an opportunity in your world that is shareable? And I know we've had a couple of competitions now on the mobile side where we have things like most shareable moment. The reason we're encouraging that is because we know that these are the moments that help drive discovery for your world and for Horizon all up. And so if there isn't a moment or an experience in your world that is shareable or exciting or something that would get someone to hit record, think about, is there an opportunity around, again, Halloween or holiday where that could be the case? Is there almost like a step and repeat in your world where someone can dress up with some fun, crazy costume and then take a photo in your world or take a video? So think about how can you use these moments to drive more discovery beyond just the feed and the algorithm. Who's going to share your world outside to TikTok, to YouTube, to Instagram? And then last thing, sharing CTAs. I mean, it sounds simple, but just even having a call to action in your world, like take a photo and share a video, like that goes a long way. Like telling people what you want them to do is one of the best ways to get them to do what you want them to do. And so I've been in a few worlds that have like a call to action to take a photo, to share. Really think about like, what is the CTA that you want for your world? Do you want someone to share? Do you want someone to invite a friend? Do you want someone to try something on? Be specific, and then that also helps you understand like, okay, is this working? Is my audience primed for this? And if they respond well, then you now have a roadmap to how you might continue to evolve your world and drive deeper engagement with these users and these audiences. Okay, that was a lot. We'll have time for Q&A, but as you can see, we're really thinking full funnel. Like the goal really is to help you at every stage to get people to be aware of your experience, to click on it, and then to stay in it once they're in it. Let's talk about what we're doing just so this group has some context for, okay, what is a larger context for what we are actually doing as a platform. So we're doing 2 big activation beats. We mentioned Halloween is the first one. And the way we're thinking about this is we're really doing end-to-end activations across all the touch points where Horizon is live. So we're going to have this larger creative wrapper, spooky fun. And that means that all the entry points where someone might come across Horizon is going to have this theme. So we are also thinking holistically around how do we drive relevance. So you'll notice, for example, if you open up the Horizon feed and store, you'll see a creative spooky wrapper that is going to cover all of the content in the world. On the family of apps and Instagram, all of our unlockable stickers are going to be Halloween themed. Why? Because we want someone to open the sticker tray, see something relevant, click, and then jump into worlds. Like we said, we want this to be relevant. We want to catch their attention. We're taking our own playbook and applying it to how we're optimizing and activating on our platform. Second, curated content. We have, we are creating a number of promoted units, shelves, in feed, and in store to promote Halloween and spooky content. So if your world is going to have these updates, we'll have a call to action on the next slide. Let us know because we want to include worlds that are going to drive this Halloween, this creative theme forward. We want to promote those and have those be featured. And so on the store side, we've already done some outreach to some VR developers who are creating net new Halloween content for this moment. And this is kind of our pitch to all of you. If you are going to activate, let us know because we want to do the same thing for Horizon as well. Third, avatars. Christina alluded to this too. We're also going to be merchandising wearables that help reinforce this theme. I know someone mentioned the back to school theme, doing the same thing for Halloween. And so we'll do that with third-party wearables from this group and also some wearables that we're creating in-house. Additionally, we're also going to push a lot more of our fantastical avatars because we know this is a moment when people are probably most primed to want to embody those things that are a little bit less humanoid and more fun. And then family of apps, I mentioned this before, but a lot of creative activations around Halloween. And so we view FOA, or the family of apps, as our front door to Horizon. So we want people to see this, feel like it's relevant, and then jump in and see all the great content. Our goal is to get people to click on the avatar, get into worlds, and then find content that's really relevant to them at that time. Then for holiday, we're taking a pretty similar approach. We're also going to have this large creative wrapper across the feed and store. We're going to curate a lot more content, but like I said, a little bit different for holiday in that we're trying to put our best foot forward. We want to surface the best content, the most retentive content, because we know that, again, this is the moment when people are most open to new experiences, and we want to drive them into experiences that are going to retain them, keep them invested, and keep them active on the platform. So as we think about content curation for holiday in December, we're really going to look for worlds and experiences that are actually doing that have that high retention, that have that large appeal, that are getting people engaged. And so the call to action today around how are we thinking about driving retention, the reason we're calling that out today is because we want to be able to feature worlds that are doing that in holiday, because that's the moment where there's most growth, most new audiences, and the biggest opportunity to drive that sustained step change in engagement and your audience. Also around December holidays, similar to Halloween, social, all about promoting new content, helping drive discovery, helping people understand what's available to them if they are opening a new device, whether it be phone or VR headset. And then, of course, all of our lifecycle marketing efforts, email, affiliate, onboarding. This is a big opportunity for us to really curate those first few touch points with our consumers. We want them to be retentive experiences, and we want worlds from people in this room to be part of that. So 2 quick CTAs. First is for Halloween. If you are thinking about or now thinking about potentially activating around Halloween, let us know. We'll likely have a CTA in the Discord. Jen and I will coordinate on how we get those worlds identified. And then we'll select a subset of worlds that will feature across feed and across some shelves that are dedicated just to Horizon content. And then for holiday, we'll share more in the next few weeks. We're going to make sure we feel really good about Halloween before we then pivot to holiday, but expect that to be a similar approach where we will work with all of you to find worlds that are really exciting, have a lot of new, fresh content, and that also are showing the engagement and retention behaviors that we want to reward for our new users and help ensure that you also benefit from those incoming audiences. So those are our plans for holiday. That was a lot. Let's go to Q&A, and I also have some product friends in the room who can help answer some questions. Thanks. Yes, of course.
Hey, Matt. This is 13 Chris right here.
Yes.
I stopped making scary, spooky worlds because every single time I get one, it gets 18 plus coded. Every single time it's 18 plus. We've toned them down. If there's one little red drop, it gets flagged 18 plus. I revert it back to 13, and then I don't know if it's AI or whatever, it puts it right back to 18. So is there a way that we can have a better system to where it doesn't code everything 18 plus? Because I think most of us have stopped making Halloween worlds because of that.
That is a great question. Let me follow up on that one. I know we made some changes in how we allow people to select age cohorts, but let me follow up on that one. That's a good call out. Let me chat with Jen. We'll find a way to communicate that back out, but good call out, and thanks for flagging that. I hear clapping, which means like we should solve that problem immediately so that we can like make Halloween spooky.
So one of the strategies you mentioned was collaboration, cross promotion with other users. Right now, users are rewarded based on % contribution to total platform hours and all that good stuff. So with doors, if Immortal here asked me to put a door to one of his worlds so he can finally get some traction, why would I ever do that? I mean, like every hour that he gets is money out of my pocket. So why am I sending traffic to his ecosystem over that? On top of that, we don't have any data about door traffic at all. I know you guys do, but we have no data. So I'm not even able to put a price tag on what marketing in my world looks like so that we can come to some sort of equitable agreement where I'm satisfied diverting traffic to him despite taking the hit on bonus money.
No, great question. Let's put the incentive point, let's put a pin in that for a second, and I want to focus on just the door strategy. I think for worlds where there might be an imbalance, where someone might definitely have a larger incentive to not create doors, like, of course, that's a huge issue. That's an issue for cross collaborations of all kinds. Like, you hear a lot about this on creators on social, like, no one wants to collaborate with someone who's, like, really small or a minnow when they don't have to. I would really think about this for maybe creators of the same size. Like, if you're trying to drive joint discovery and joint outcomes, like, is there someone who is similar to your world, similar size, experience, complexity, where that joint discovery actually is more of an equitable trade and one where you all can benefit? So I hear the issue around really big discrepancies in size, but really I think it's also an opportunity for worlds that might be closer to really think about how can we drive shared success. And so heard on the differences, but I think for probably the vast majority of people in this room, like, is there a creator that's similarly sized where you two can partner and drive that joint discovery? Maybe your world is one type of genre, this other world's different, and you actually benefit by doing some cross promotion. So heard on the incentive and insights piece. I don't think we have someone on the product team who can talk about door insights, but it's a good call out and one that I think can also simplify this conversation going forward. Insights, you did? Okay, great. So we'll follow up on the door insights piece, but it's a great question, and I think for those differences in size, definitely something that might be a longer conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Sorrells with the Soapstone. I just wanted to comment on the advantage of putting doors in, because for 3 years, every week, we put new doors for creators that are in no way related to us. Oftentimes, we don't even tell them. That's been a huge advantage to the Soapstone community, because within our community, we're sharing great content with them. And then it's also a huge advantage as far as the Soapstone being a place where people start their adventure and where people end their adventure. So sharing doors from a creator's perspective, it's been wildly valuable to us to share that traffic and grow kind of as a unintentional side effect because of it.